You're listening to Three's a Crowd, the North East Footy Podcast, with Rye for Borough, Steve for Newcastle United, and Ted for Sunderland.
Good morning. Welcome along to Three's a Crowd.
We need to move that order around a little bit now, like in order of leagues. I don't think I should be at the end now.
You've only 10 seconds into the show and you're having a go at him already.
I do like his football in the background. That's a bit of old school, isn't it?
I got sent this yesterday. It's actually from 1998, Derby versus Middlesbrough, signed by the 1998 Middlesbrough football team. Mark Schwarzer is just there. It got sent this yesterday. Opened it up yesterday from a fan of mine, and I've got a statue coming, like a little platform. It's incredible. I love it.
That's nice. Nice. Anyway, hello lads.
Hello, lads. Good evening and good morning, and wherever you are in the world, because obviously Bry's in Australia, as most of you know. Ted's in Cyprus, and I'm in the UK. So, welcome to everybody in the chat. It is our final show of the season. We will be back next year. I know lots of people were terrified when they saw Ted's video, thinking it was the end of the program.
Some weren't terrified, some were happy.
Yes. Well, maybe some people in Teesside were thinking it was the end.
I was happy. happy.
Craig said he saw a smuggy top in the tune yesterday. He couldn't believe it. They do get about, mate. They do get about. Probably there for the Sam Fender. Probably there for the Sam Fender gig, helping our PSR. Anyway, here we are. The final game, the final show of the season. Newcastle United, Sunderland, and Borough all had varying fortunes during the season. Newcastle winning the Carabao Cup and finally qualifying for the Champions League. Sunderland winning the playoff final, getting promoted, and Middlesbrough sacking the manager. So basically, that's where we're at. It's as simple as that. So we're going to start with Ted, because Ted is basically like a cat on a hot tin roof, dying to talk about Sunderland's promotion and their playoff final win. You did it, Ted. Give us your more measured, I guess, celebration now, because it's been a couple of weeks. You've had time to sink in. How are you feeling about being back in the Premier League?
To be honest, it still hasn't sunk in. I mean, on the day, I don't think I've ever been watching a game, not even there, watching a game where I had so many mixed emotions running through the whole thing. I think it was kind of, it was written in fate that we were going to do it late again. Absolutely. We didn't get off to the best start in that game at all. Losing Luke O'Nien clearly rocked the team. Now, whatever we say about Luke O'Nien as a footballer, sometimes he can be a little bit quick in his assessment of things and sort of dives in with challenges and does silly things. But as a man, as a guy, as a member of that squad, his influence is absolutely huge, and you could see how much that affected the team when he actually went off. But let's talk about Dan Ballard, because for the two playoff semi-finals and the final, I thought he was streets ahead of anybody else in terms of defensive capability, in terms of looking like a Premier League player. I thought Ballard was just absolutely incredible. And he got his reward with that 120th minute goal. I don't think we've actually had a show since we had the second semi-final. So yeah, listen, Ballard, absolutely unreal. The whole squad that day just turned up. Paddy Roberts changed the game for me when he came on, playing a little bit more centrally than what he did for the rest of the season. It just clicked into place, and I've got to hand it. I mean, you know me, lads. If I've got it wrong, I'll put my hand up and I'll say I got it wrong. Tommy Watson. I publicly apologised to Tommy Watson because I slated him after the decision was made. To announce he was off to Brighton. There was a couple of games where he looked off the pace, shall we say. And, we've got to remember, and in hindsight's a fantastic thing as football fans, but we've got to remember this is a very young lad who's just making his way into professional football. And maybe the fact that He's going to be leaving home for the first time ever, heading to a Premier League side. There's a lot of pressure on his shoulders as well. And this is stuff that really we could have taken into account at the time. So for him to score that winner and give us the ultimate of parting gifts was just absolutely incredible. And he took it so well. I mean, it was the coolest of finishes, considering where we were at that point in the game. So, yeah, absolutely unreal. I'm still on a come down from it. It took me a week to get my voice back because apparently, according to Mrs. Ted, I was singing all the way back from Ayia Napa to Larnaca, where we live, and at the top of my voice after the game had finished. I'm going, I have no recollection of this whatsoever, by the way, because there was a couple of celebratory drinks going down at that point. So, yeah, now reality sets in, though, doesn't it? Because we've already got a lot of the pundits. Chris Sutton, who is the biggest knacker on the planet for me as far as football is concerned. I can't stand the bloke. Anybody who turns down the opportunity to play for your country, whether it's the B team or not, I just think he's the king of all brats. So he's already saying that, you know, there's a couple of young players that have been linked to Sunderland, but he reckons they should go to Celtic instead so they get Champions League football for all 2 games that they play every season in the Champions League. But absolute muppetry. I'm well aware of the situation right now that we are odds on to go down. That's just a given. You know, there's probably better equipped teams than us struggled in the last 2 seasons. All 6 that have gone up have gone back down. The form is well against us. But as we've proven, certainly towards the back end of the season, you can't rule this team out. You absolutely cannot rule it out. I think watching some of the footage after of Régis Le Bris and how he speaks to the players, he has such a calming influence on them. And if anybody can keep them together through what is going to be very, very tough, we're going to lose more than we win. That's 100%. You know, we've got to be realistic about that. And the fans need to be realistic about that and be on the club side. But if we can make 5, 6, 7 additions to that squad, decent ones, I mean, as well, and retain the rest of what we've got there. So the likes of Sirkin, the likes of Hume, they've all got to stay now. Selling Job, yes, that's a loss, but look at the money what we've got in for that. That's absolutely incredible. We've just got to be clever now. We've just got to be clever with the signings we make. And I reckon we've actually got a chance. We've got a chance of staying up. And it's heart more than head saying it, but I just have a weird feeling about next season that we might just surprise a few people. I think there might be a few surprise signings as well along the way, which people won't necessarily expect, but will be rather welcomed. The one that we all want to see is Ahmad. And if the rumours are true that they are going to go absolutely balls to the wall and make the bid for him, I think that shows the intent that we're not just there to pick up the parachute payments. We want to give this actually a really good go. But
the big question is, Ted, are Sunderland up for sale?
I think there's more than a big possibility of that. Yeah, it's no secret. I mean, there's been talks about it. There's been a few names bandied about, but to be honest, the boxing guy was one of them. But yeah, we can't say too much about it, obviously, but I think there is a more than a decent possibility that's the case. Kirill has done absolute wonders. After he took over from I know exactly, mate, exactly. The cat agrees with me. Kirill's done fantastically well after he took over from the 2 shysters. You know, the salmon trouser wearing Ponce that was kicking about in Sunderland, who's now at Charlton, I believe. Yeah, listen, they were running the club into the ground. Kirill's turned it around. He's made it a sustainable club again. And obviously this whole model of the club is working. We picked up Job for something like 750,000 in a tribunal. We're selling him 30 million. The chances are that Chris Riggs going to go for 40 million. That's the latest rumour. If that's the case, hey, long live the model, because that's the kind of thing that's going to make sure our club not only survives but can actually move forward and attract a better kind of younger player to bring through. So yeah, it's whether the club gets sold, I don't know whether it'll happen this in the summer. To be honest, Steve, I think it's probably a little bit too soon. These things take time, as you know. And if it's somebody from Saudi, then obviously, the Premier League will kick it out first, and then we'll have to take legal action and then get them through.
Yeah, we are interested as to who takes Sunderland over if it does happen. Lots of rumours that it could be Saudi ownership as well. It'll be interesting to see whether that happens. But let's go across to Teesside and oh dear me, you're looking happy, right? You did. I thought you would be in the same boat as Sunderland. I thought it would be playoffs, and I thought it was a flip of a coin who was going to come up, but it didn't happen. And I think, and what we were both surprised at, and obviously, Ted was surprised as well when we were having a chat in our WhatsApp group, was that, it took so long really to make the decision about Michael Carrick, because, this season has been a failure for Middlesbrough, and ultimately Carrick has had to go. So what's your feelings, right?
My feelings are the Premier League sucks because you got VAR. Nobody watches that league anyway, so I don't really care about the Premier League. Championship's where it's at. There's better teams in the Championship. We've got Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool actor. Do you know what I mean? It's where you should be playing football and where the most exciting football is in the league, in the world. Michael Carrick is... Yeah, look, we were talking about this towards the end of the season, weren't we? We went on a bit of a poor run. And the rumours were flying then and there that Michael Carrick was going to lose his job. He was the longest-serving manager in the Championship at the time. And the writing was on the wall. I've spoken to those in the club and around the club, and they all said that as much as Michael Carrick and his staff were good guys, a change needed to happen. And I think all of the fans are in agreement. I think we saw towards the end of the last season, some of those games were just so poor in terms of what Middlesbrough were saying, producing on the pitch. That a change was needed this off-season. I think we're all in agreement with that. We don't like seeing the back of Michael Carrick, given that he is, Michael Carrick in essence, and we all wanted him to succeed, but it hasn't happened, and he hasn't gotten us to, where we want to be in the Premier League or the playoffs. Now, we've sacked him and we've said 10th in the Championship's not good enough. So now we need to find a manager that's going to get us better than 10th. Is he out there? Well, I think we've realised now that it's a bit of slim pickings when it comes to managers out there that are proven, because they're all in jobs, as they should be. The rumours are that it's down to 3 at the moment, one European unknown. It's between Danny Rowe, Steve Cooper, and Rob Edwards at the moment, and there's one unknown, which we do believe might be Aaron Danks, who was our assistant coach. Obviously, it's the assistant at Bayern Munich now to Vincent Kompany. So my belief is that Danny Rowe is the strongest candidate. He's the current manager of Sheffield Wednesday. Sheffield Wednesday are currently in a transfer embargo and just an absolute mess, come with financial issues on and off the pitch. They haven't been played players-wise and all that for the past couple of months. So Danny Rowe is the strongest. He's got the proven track record of taking a struggling Sheffield Wednesday and moving them up the table. A German manager that is wanted back in Germany from bigger name clubs. So whether it will be him, that's what the fans want. I think that's what makes the most sense in terms of a fighting manager, a manager that speaks strongly. That's who I want to go for. Is a guy like Danny Rowe, because we need someone. The thing that I couldn't accept about this Middlesbrough team this season was we got called brittle on 3 different occasions by 3 different managers across the league. And that's not okay. And for a team that's built, in Middlesbrough, a team that comes from that area, we all know that that's not a brittle area. And we need a team that is going to, whether they lose, draw, win, that they leave it all out there on the field and they don't come across as brittle. We don't want to be coming out and being left that we could have put more out on that pitch. We could have not, left blood, sweat and tears in that locker room sort of thing. And I think we need a manager that's going to, in essence, bring that. Danny Rowe, for me, is the only available candidate that can do that. When I say available, we believe he's available. There is going to be some compensation for him. Rob Edwards seems to be the one on paper that makes the most sense. He has worked with Kieran Scott, our director of football, before when they were both at Wolves. Rob Edwards obviously took Luton Town up, almost kept them up in the Premier League, but then obviously relegated this season, or last season, I should say, and getting to the sack. I mean, that one on paper doesn't really excite anyone within or around the club, I would say. Sorry, not within the club, because they might want to go for him, but around the club in terms of the fans and the social media presence. He's not someone that is enthusiastic greatly appreciated by the Borough fans. So it's going to be interesting. It's a massive off-season now for Middlesbrough. We've changed the kit sponsored going into the 150 years of the club. We sacked Area and now have got Castor, which we all know fits like a Ted's t-shirt after a big night out. I mean, I had to get one that in, Ted, because you're Premier League. I'm bringing you back down to my level. I think that we need to obviously make sure we get the right manager, and then we need to start building a squad that is capable of fighting day in, day out in that championship. We need a team of players that are willing to give all for that badge, blood, sweat and tears, because we haven't seen that in the past couple of seasons. We haven't seen a fighting Middlesbrough team. We haven't seen a team that we can be proud of this season especially. So long way to go for this Middlesbrough off season. Exciting, I must say. At the end of it, I mean, change is always exciting, whether you're scared of it or need it. Change is always, exciting in football because it's the unknown. We saw that with Sunderland this season, the unknown of Regis Labrise, and look what that could have done. Middlesbrough will be hoping that they can have the similar success, and I think, and I said this to you guys in the group WhatsApp as well, I think seeing Newcastle win a cup and Sunderland promoted has only given Steve Gibson, a proud Middlesbrough man, the fire up the backside that he needed.
Okay, well, that's interesting. It's been an interesting season for Newcastle, as you say. Newcastle winning their first trophy in donkey's years. We've spoken about it a lot on here, and it's last season now. That's the way I feel. It's what we do next year that counts. But the Champions League race was the only thing really that people could focus on, other than the Championship playoff final. And it went to the final day. It went to the last game of the season. It didn't spoil it for me that Newcastle lost against Everton, and that it was down to the results elsewhere. Melly, of course, who I've had on my channel on numerous occasions, and he's graced his presence on this channel in the past as well on our program. Took great delight in saying that Manchester United gave us the opportunity to play in the Champions League. It's done over 38 games. We all know that. Newcastle's point at Brighton was the point that really got us into the Champions League. But it's over 38 games. Newcastle were the fifth best team in the Premier League last season, which was an improvement on the season before. And to get into the Champions League for Newcastle is fantastic. It's great achievement over the course of a season. And had we not had a bad start to the season, which we did, we weren't playing well, Newcastle could have been in the mix for winning the Premier League this season, which again is an amazing achievement when you think that the club's only been in Saudi ownership for 4 years, and all of the restrictions that have been placed on us spending money really has meant that we've had to do it the hard way, compared to the likes of Chelsea, Manchester United, Liverpool, etc., who can go out and spend what they want. Back in the Champions League, a lot of money coming in for Newcastle from that, and it's now really an interesting summer for us, because we do have money to spend. We've got money in the bank. We haven't been able to spend for the last three transfer windows because of PSR, and we all know what happened last time when we didn't invest in the Champions League season. We fell short. We struggled, and injuries, suspensions played their part, and Newcastle ended up really, really struggling from the off. And we don't want to do that next season. So investment is the key. Newcastle need to box clever in the transfer window, and all of that's now going to be done again with a backdrop of uncertainty with regards to your director of football, your manager, your scouting system, because Paul Mitchell's left, and 12 months at a football club, bringing in a load of youngsters and not having the opportunity to really invest in anybody for the first team is interesting. We felt all along that the relationship wasn't good between him and Eddie Howe, despite both of them coming out and saying that everything was fine. Was it because Mitchell came in under the CEO or the departing CEO Darren Eales? Maybe is it because the new CEO who's going to come in will want to work with his own man? Is it because there's been a fallout between Eddie or a disagreement in how they want to do things, and PIF have come down on the side of the manager? Only the club knows. It can only be speculated by the press and by the fans as to what's actually going on at the football club. But is it going to affect our window? My answer would be no. I think Steve Nixon is he's the head scout, and I think him and Eddie will have already set a target. And I think Newcastle will be quite shrewd. I think what we've looked at over the course of the last few years is that a lot of these players that Newcastle are constantly linked with in the newspapers very rarely come to Newcastle, because Newcastle aren't really looking for them. I think sometimes Newcastle can be very cute with the media, maybe allow the media to run away with stories and promote the fact that they are going for X, Y, and Z, when in fact they're looking at the other side of the pond and looking at somebody else. So I'll trust the process. I'll trust Newcastle United to get it right. And hopefully we will see another Alexander Isak or another Sandro Tonali or two coming into the club, because we do need them. We do need to improve the squad. As for those players going out, again, that can only happen if we have players coming in. So it will be interesting to see what happens with the likes of Callum Wilson, Sean Longstaff, two long-term servants of the club. Some fans feel the time is up, but maybe Eddie doesn't. Maybe Eddie feels that he needs these players. And, would Callum Wilson stay on a pay-as-you-play contract and, settle to play third-place striker? Listening to his podcast, you would probably say no, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. Our goalkeeper scenario needs to be sorted out. We played a lot of last season with two goalkeepers on the bench and one in goal. It's been a bit of a bizarre season. John Ruddy, Vlachomidos or Dubravka on the bench, and Pope in goal. At the back end of the season, it's been a strange one. Lots of links with James Trafford. There's no smoke without fire. I think that one, having listened to what James Trafford said, between the lines, I think he may well come if the deal can be done. And I do expect Newcastle, like Stu Penman said on NUFC Matters on Saturday. I think that Mark Gahey deal will probably get done this time round, because his contract, he's only got a year left now, and Newcastle should be able to do that business if he wants to come. So I'd be happy with those two incomings. I do think we need a striker. I do think we need another midfielder, whether that's a right winger or another creative midfielder in the mould of Peter Beardsley would be fantastic. Remains to be seen, but overall, season 2024-25, a very successful one. The best season that I have seen as a supporter in my lifetime, because we won a trophy, and hopefully more to come. That's what I want. As for your two seasons, I was happy Sunderland came up. I didn't expect them to. I thought they played very well in the playoff semi-final against tough opposition, it has to be said. Yeah. But then the final, listen, if the luck's in, your luck's in, and they managed to get over the line.
I love VAR.
Yeah,
VAR is probably the best thing that's ever been introduced into the game. I can't believe we're survived so long without it, Steve.
Classic. And of course, it opens up a whole new range of possibilities for a couple of shows, I guess, for me and you next season, which will be interesting in the build-up to the derby.
Rye gets to be referee next season.
He does. That's a massive thing. I mean, I was saying this to you boys as well. Give me the derby to kick the Premier League season off. I mean, what a game that would be to get the
not for Northumbria, please.
And look, that's what you want, and we've said it all along, haven't we? Since we started working together back, a couple of years ago, we've always wanted to see, our three teams up there, because it creates that rivalry, doesn't it? And it creates some sort of special football in the Northeast. We now get to see two, at least on minimum, Newcastle versus Sunderland games, and that's what you want. I would argue it's probably one of the biggest rivalries in the football, English Football League. Do you know what I mean? You can argue, Millwall and West Ham all you want, but Sunderland and Newcastle is massive for our area. area and for football, you will see how much these two teams dislike each other, not only on the football pitch but also away. And it's funny that we bring this sort of, three's a crowd. That's the sort of irony of this podcast, is bringing out us three together. Look, I think Sunderland, it was incredible playoff game, wasn't it? I mean, to come from behind, it was written on the at 45 minutes. I spoke to you, Ted, at halftime. It was all done. Do you know what I mean? You had a goal ruled off. You know what I mean? You were a goal down in the first 5 minutes or so. You'd lost Luke O'Nien to a shoulder dislocation. You'd had a goal ruled off by VAR. Whether that was or wasn't, it doesn't matter now. You know what I mean? And then the next 45 minutes, you had Watson, who already sold to Brighton, who you were criminally attacking all of the end of the season, scored the goal. But the thing is, for me, now going into the Premier League, is what can Sunderland do? Because you need to now step up to that next level. You've done very well in keeping a strong youth squad together. Whether that youth target is still the option, if it is, then it's going to need to be, get on sooner. You've lost Watson, you've lost Jobe. You'll probably lose a couple of others. Such is the nature of success. Unfortunately, when you do well, teams and other people seem to start to notice. And you've got to start now, obviously, looking at who can Regis bring in. Enzo Lafay's already signed. Obviously, that was some smart business.
Got signing already.
You've still got to now build on that. Newcastle, I think, from a Middlesbrough point of view, the one thing that I've got, Steve, is in the back of my head is Thomas Tuchel. These friendlies haven't gone down too well in the England side of things, and I think Tuchel might be on thin wire come the World Cup next season. Now, I think the only natural replacement that I can think for an England national manager is Eddie Howe. Whether he would take it or not is up to Eddie Howe and all the England things. But I honestly think that Eddie Howe is a natural replacement for Thomas Tuchel in that England team. Whether he wants to do that now or later, I'm not too sure. That's the only thing that I can see for Newcastle kind of, in the thing. But I think obviously getting Champions League, that goal for Man United and Aston Villa, that was incredible to come down to that and secure Champions League for Newcastle. But what we need to see now for Newcastle is, again, it's the same as Sunderland, is taking that next step. It's that Champions League football. We saw how many injuries Newcastle got during a Champions League season, of how much football they have to say. We saw Dan Burns step on a podcast. These boys are now 2 years older than they were that year. Do you know what I mean? So we now need to see Newcastle building a squad that is up for 3 to 4 games a week. And I think that they can do that now, hopefully with the PSR requirements a little bit easier than they were 2 years ago because of the Adidas deals and all that sort of stuff as well. Obviously looking at the stadium builds and all that sort of stuff. But we do have a big derby, the Time Weir derby next season. Middlesbrough will be slaving away in the championship, and we'll see.
It doesn't mean we love you any less,
Well, I love you less, so it makes sense. So, do you know what I mean? You've left me. It was like, we were championship bros. We were championship bros, and you left me. And you know what? We spoke about Wilder uncannily a lot last season, and it had to be Wilder sticking that last knife in my back. The last game of the season when I needed Wilder just to do his job and win a game of football. Do you know what I mean? And he couldn't even do that for me. So, I hate you, Chris Wilder. I hate you so much, and I hope to God Regis eats a sandwich in the first Time Weir derby, because just as a nod to Chris Wilder, because he was so stupidly irate after that game. And look, Regis for me, manager of the season. Eddie Howe for England. That's what I want to see. Both your teams in the championship next season. Let's go.
Who do you want as manager for Borough then, Ray?
Look, it's a great question, and there's the problem is I don't have much to pick from. If I had, a long list, the problem that for that maybe not the problem, but the thing that most people need to realize about Steve Gibson as an owner of Middlesbrough Football Club is he doesn't like to poach managers that are in work. He never has, never will. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the compensation that you have to pay that he's not willing to do. But he always tries to get managers that are out at work and tries to find an up and coming manager as well. For the past couple of seasons, we look at Aitor Karanka, who took us to the Premier League. He was, an unknown at that time. Obviously, Chris Wilder, Neil Warnock are both known, but that was because maybe we didn't do well. Michael Carrick hadn't managed before. He'd done 3 games at Man United, but obviously he's got the England and the name behind him. He's a very proud British man, is Steve Gibson, and he's got that now with Castore, who are an British branded sports manufacturer. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Rob Edwards, because it just seems to make sense with him working with Kieran Scott and working with Chris Jones, the head of recruitments and head of scouting at Middlesbrough previously. He's an English manager as well. I want Danny Rowell. I think he gives you the strength that we need to take on the rest of the world. At the moment, I feel brittle, just like exactly what other managers described us. I feel a bit shaken up. We've seen Sunderland promoted, we've seen Newcastle win a cup, and we've seen us as that memes going around as that third-headed dragon that's just got his tongue out and he's doing all the silly things. You know what I mean? So we need a strong manager that is going to build a strong squad. I think out of the three candidates, it's not Steve Cooper and it's not Rob Edwards, it's Danny Rowell. He's got the German blood, he's got the German sort of knowledge behind him to create a strong team that can fight on that pitch. We all saw this season that we had a good team on paper. Well, unfortunately, good teams on paper doesn't mean in any type of football. So we need a team that may not look good on paper, but are going to fight tooth and nail when they step onto that white line. That's what I want to see. Danny Rowell's the manager for me.
Okay, 300 of you watching live this morning. Amazing. Have you not got anything to do? Happy Father's Day as well to everybody out there. Big thank you to everybody.
You only turned up to see the cat.
We definitely are. They're very surprised it's not black. That's what everyone's saying.
No, Penny's elsewhere. There's the black cat's having a chill out.
All right, last one of these of the season. Here we go. And as always, I've chucked a couple of non-football related ones in, and seeing as though we're talking about cats, this one was funny from Ricky Gervais. Just met a lovely cat in Hartford. It turned out to be a Nazi.
Wow.
The BBC putting stuff on the on sale. This is fantastic. Of all the estate agents, the BBC could have chosen to sell apartments in the conversion of television centre. They chose Savills. Yeah, very good. Lots of people welcoming Sunderland Football Club back to the Premier League. I make no apologies for showing a few of these. Jet2 holidays. It's not just a holiday, it's a short stay in the Premier League. All inclusive cheesy chips and panda pop. Swap the beaches for the Stadium of Light. Trade cocktails for pints in the Peacock. Sunderland AFC invites you on a whirlwind getaway to the top flight. Short Premier League trip. A guided tour of hope, history, and how we're the lads chance. And a guided tour of history and how we're the lads chance. Very good. Thank you for that. It's amazing what AI technology can do. This guy was also spotted at Wembley during the playoffs. Fair play, JP says, to how far some Sunderland fans have travelled for today's playoff final. This lad's come all the way from 1982.
That's an exceptional mullet, that like.
It is, yeah. And this one as well. As a Newcastle fan, I genuinely think Sunderland will last 3 seasons at least. Autumn, winter, and spring, says Hades. Mark Goldbridge posted this: with Gyökeres opening to move to United, it would be ridiculous if we don't find the money. Literally could be the difference between 8th and 4th. Greg says, and how do you make up the difference between 15th and 8th? Yes, very good point. And breaking news, Tottenham's new manager has been revealed. I don't just deliver in my second season, I deliver every season, says Postman Pat. Slightly late with that one, but it's still funny. Troll football, when you've got a football game at 6 and a gender reveal party at 9. And this one, when Ryan Giggs finished the Great Manchester Run, he was met with this. Somebody put, personally, I think he crossed the line when he was beep, his sister-in-law banged his brother's back. Excellent. And as I say, a couple of non-football related ones to finish with. This one, they sacked me from my bingo calling job. Oh, why, says the woman's friend. Apparently a meal for 2 with a hairy view is not the way to call 69. And a Mexican word of the day, hardwood. I took Maria to see Celine Dion. Maria cried when Celine sang, my heart would go on.
Oh,
and this dude looks like someone's painted Hugh Jackman's face on a big toe. It's very true. And I'm sure we've all done this in the toilet, Ted. When the toilet stall door doesn't have a lock.
Absolutely, yes. The Tut and Shive in Newcastle.
Yeah. Sober, her. I'm not that kind of girl. Drunk, her. Ram it in my goblin's underpass. Thank you for that one. I've never heard it called that. And this was hilarious. Go away, Stephen. It's Stephen with a PH. Go away for Stephen. And I don't know if I should cook this potato or take it to hospital. There's my... And breaking news, the mass panic in Dunfermline this afternoon is over after the leopard that was knocked over and killed on Holbeath Road turned out to be the dressing gown of a young mother going to get fags at the local shop. Thank you to everybody who has sent those in over the course of the season. We will be continuing Troll of the Week next year, and look forward to welcoming some more cats. We've lost Rye because he's got a storm brewing in Manchester. He's hoping in Australia. So he's hoping to get not Manchester. He's hoping to get back. It is early morning. It is early morning, Ted. And I've had some late nights. It's been a long season as well, I think, for everybody. But yeah, hopefully he'll be back before the end of the show, so everybody can have a quick goodbye to him. But I did set one of these up, which is pity Rye's not here. We like doing something non-football related. Stephen Kennedy said 6 men, 1 name, Bond, James Bond. This iconic line has reverberated through the world since it was first spoken by Sean Connery in 1962's Dr. No, initiating one of the most successful and enduring film franchises in cinema history. So the question is very simple, Ted. Who was your favourite James Bond?
Oh, this is a really, really tough one, you know, because I'm a traditionalist. For me, Sean Connery was absolutely incredible. But I think Daniel Craig just took it, and it's very difficult to take Bond into a new direction and sort of bring it into the modern era. And I think Daniel Craig was absolutely superb. I think it's going to be it's going to be a really tough ask to kind of try and replace him. To be honest, it's Sean Connery a very close second, but for me, Daniel Craig's been absolutely superb.
Yeah, I mean Daniel Craig has been superb. Roger Moore for me though is my go-to because that was my first James Bond. Yeah. I get where you're coming from with Sean Connery, but I've enjoyed Connery's films, but I genuinely think that Connery's wasn't my era. So Roger Moore for me. Daniel Craig comes a very close second. He has taken it into a different dimension. And
it's a bit like the borough manager's job. Who's going in next, Steve?
Well, it is, yeah. Graham says right gone because it's now a Premier League show.
Don't say that one, man.
it's gonna hurt. And Viagra, it won't make you James Bond, Ted, but it will make you Roger Moore.
Sage advice, Steve. Sage advice.
So I mean, here we are without Rye, so we can't really talk about Middlesbrough. So we're gonna, and again, we never plan these shows. So what's your feelings with with the players' ins and outs? Because we haven't really talked about that for you. You've said it's important making the right signings, but what about you? What are you feeling? What kind of players do you think you need? Where do you need to strengthen in middle at Sunderland?
Yeah, I could do with like what Barry does with you and have a full database of players that have been linked. Because even after the final whistle went in the playoff final, it just started. And obviously yes, we've got one in through the door. Enzo Lafay becomes our automatic record signing. Thank God it's not Didier Dong anymore. I mean, absolute useless that he was. But yeah. There's some interesting ones out there, and I think they need to kind of retain this kind of youthful look to the side, but we're shopping in a different place now. It's the players that have been linked to sort of 19, 20-year-olds who can't get a game at Man City. All right, Man City didn't have their best season, but players like that, there's some really interesting ones coming out of further afield. English players that are playing abroad currently. So you got Tammy Abraham, you got Tomori, who's over in Milan at this moment in time, and there's a feeling that the club will start to look to these young players who maybe just didn't get their full or realise their full potential at Premier League level, and start to attract them back. And I think the likes of Tammy Abraham and Tomori as well would add quality to the side. I think we need to certainly look at strengthening the back line. I love Luke O'Nien. I love everything he's done for the club in terms of his passion and his loyalty, his drive. First in, last out of training, all that, absolutely brilliant. But he'll not survive. We already saw some comments in there. Luke O'Nien's a red card waiting to happen in the Premier League because of VAR. So we need to strengthen that back line. And I think I was very surprised that they're not going to sign Chris Mepham. But then again, he didn't actually get a game much in the playoffs. I think it was always the desire to bring Dan Ballard back in. So I think Dan Ballard needs a partner at centre-back, definitely. I think we need a strong backup goalkeeper now. Not that there's anything wrong with Simon Moore, but you talk about a guy who was like sort of third choice at Sheffield United. I think we need a good young keeper. Maybe Matty Young is actually the answer there, but the temptation is that we'll want Matty Young actually to go out and get more experience. So it could be a loan to a championship club. There's a one just down the road from us who might benefit from taking Matty Young on for the season. I don't know whether Borough have actually signed the keeper they had on loan, Rye, have they? Or
No. Mark Travis hasn't been linked back. We've apparently been priced out of a move as well. So
a move for Matty Young's to somewhere like Borough where he can get championship experience in a good setup. That would benefit him, and we need to strengthen there up front. Weirdly, obviously Enzo Lafay, as a midfielder, I think he'll benefit from being in the Premier League. I think it's his kind of arena where he can perform that little bit better. Mayenda, he's got a lot to do and he's got a lot to learn. But I like that kind of development path. He took his goal in the final extremely well. And I think he's got that pace where he's got the pace and power that'll do well in the Premier League. Isidore's another one who I think Isidore will be better in the Premier League than what he was in the Championship because he's more of a technical player than he is sort of, that rough and tumble kind of approach that you need in the Championship. Ryan knows what I mean. Tommy Conway is a decent player, but he can put himself about a bit as well and take a few kicks. Isidore for me, possibly a little bit lightweight for the Championship, but I think his technical ability could see him do very, very well. Mundle, I'm excited to see what he can do. I think Mundle is a better player than Jack Clark. Jack Clark is a Championship player. I think we've seen that now. I think we all know that Clarkey is great Championship player. Ain't good enough for the Premier League. So yeah, listen, we need to fill some spots with the Job spot. It doesn't automatically mean that Chris Rigg is going to step into that position. So I think there's some quality got to be spent there because of the way PSR works, and this is going to be probably a recurrent theme of next season. We can't go out and throw money at this situation. So we've got to be very, very smart in the way we do it. Nige mentioned it as well. A little bit of sort of, how can I put, experience is what we need, and without ruining that whole youthful thing. But I think just 2 or 3 players in with a bit of nous, a bit of seasoned professionalism about them. That's what we need in there. So just go and spend the money wisely. If we change ownership and all of a sudden we get money, that doesn't necessarily mean we can automatically go and spend it. So stick to the plan. Season it with a little bit of experience in there, but let's stick to the plan. Let's get young players in who are hungry, who want to go and do it, but at the same time, we're shopping from a slightly better shop these days. We're not so much trundling around Lidl. We've got upmarket and we're now sort of going around, not Harrods, I wouldn't say, but Asda at least.
I do laugh when there's somebody who actually put that. You're still shopping at Bridges, mate. You're not even at Asda yet. Quick one for you before I go to Rye, just on transfers. David Cook says, who pushed the Job move? Was it the player or the club for the money?
Both. It was always going to be the case that move was going to happen. There was talk of a gentleman's agreement. I think Dortmund didn't expect us to get promoted, which is why there was the stalling over the price at first. I think if we'd stayed in the Championship, then you would have paid championship top dollar, by the way, because you're still talking 20 million they initially put the bid in for. But it was always going to be the case. And hey, if we're going to sell players for, many, many times the value that we're paid for them to some of the biggest teams in Europe, I ain't got a problem with that as long as it's invested properly. So, yeah, I don't think there was a particular push. There's a few fans a little bit disappointed that he hasn't tried to go for it in the Premier League. And yeah, they'll refer back to him not wanting to be in his brother's shadow.
That's
so
he
the
goes and signs for me, Teddy.
Isn't it? It is a bit of a weird one. But you've got to bear in mind that the Dodsy's brother is actually the head British scout for Dortmund.
Yeah.
So there's the family link there, and I think it was always going to happen. So I don't think it's been a push. I think he's conducted himself so well. He's a player who, if we do cross paths again, he will be extremely well received at the club. There's no two ways about that. He's a phenomenal young man, brought up very well, speaks so intelligently about football for such a young age. And we just wish him well. It's a shame we are going to see more players like that leave. That's part and parcel of it. We're going to see it. When like Trey Hume puts in a tackle like what he did in the closing moments of that playoff final, there's a few Premier League teams looking at that going, yeah, I fancy a bit of that. So yeah, listen, it's all about expecting these things. And as much as I don't think Job was pushing to be away, I think it was a done deal before it even started.
Yeah. Is Job any good, or does he just look like his brother? My pal is a Birmingham fan that said Job was better than Jude when they were there. Question to you, Rai.
Yes.
Where do Middlesbrough need to strengthen to have a crack at the playoffs next season, other than the managers took out?
Yeah, look, it's a good question. Obviously, there seems to be some holes all over that Middlesbrough team now. Obviously, we were towards the end of that season. I think 3 or 4 of our starters were loans, and obviously we were sort of reliant heavily on them. Look, there's calls for probably a goalkeeper. The rumors around Seny Dieng, who is our normal number 1 goalkeeper, are quite loud and quite vicious as well in terms of him falling out with Michael Carrick, that they got into a bust up and that he chose never to play for the club again. We don't know if that's a rumor or true, but we're going to have to get that one sorted. We've got a young goalkeeper in Sol Brynn, who you would argue is our future number 1. So we'd like to see him given the chance. We need a leader and we need a captain. We need a captain. If Hayden Hackney does stick around or does go, he is our Job, as you would put it. He is our money bank. I would say he's a good 20 to 30 mil for any team looking for a young English centre defensive mid who's an absolute superstar. So whether we decide to cash in on him now or later, I'm not too sure. So it's going to be up to the new manager, and he's going to have to build a team that he wants. And I think he's going to need a leader. He's going to need potentially a decent goalkeeper that can help Sol Brynn, who is still young. And we're going to need a striker. We're going to need a striker that's going to go well with Tommy Conway. Tommy Conway is our only recognised striker. We had Iheanacho, which I'll never speak again after this podcast ever again. That's the last time I mentioned his name. And we need a striker that can go along with Tommy Conway. And then you need some players that can come in off the bench and do a job when inevitably you get injuries. We have a lot of football to play in the Championship. You guys are aware of how much football you play in the Championship Tuesday nights. And we've got teams like Wrexham and Birmingham and all that now to play. We've got teams coming down in Ipswich, Southampton, and Southampton have gone and gotten Will Still. I mean, Southampton are going to be no mugs either. So, it's a tough old slog in the Championship, and we need to go and get a team that is going to be able to battle that in, week out. It'll be up to the new manager. I think he'll need to build whatever team he wants, but I would like to see some strength, some maturity in that team. And I talk about leaders. I talk about, the classic one for me was the signing that Sunderland made. And maybe it's gone, I don't know if it's gone unnoticed, but, the signing from Preston North End, his name's escaped me, Teddy boy, but, that type of, midfielder in the Championship just does ever so well to be on the bench, to have someone that's got the experience of what it takes to get out of the league and what it takes to be fighting in this league week in, week out is something that we need.
Okay, got about 5 minutes left on the show. I guess just a roundup of last season from all of our perspectives. I'll start, lads.
Okay. This will be fun.
I'm very happy. I'm very happy. Newcastle won a trophy. Newcastle got in the Champions League. It doesn't get better than that. I guess my highest moment was Wembley and Dan Burn's goal. That just really set us on our way. And Geordie boy, born in Blythe, bleeds black and white. I think that was probably the best moment for me. Probably the Brentford defeat was the one that hit the hardest, and it certainly hit the team, because then the team went on a wonderful run. That's probably the lowest moment of the season, as well as going out to the FA Cup, because if there was ever a year that Newcastle could have done a cup double, it was probably this year. I think it might have been at the detriment of Champions League football. I think our league form would have dipped off, but I think Newcastle would have easily got to Wembley again and won the FA Cup as well. But we'll save that for next year. So that's my season in a nutshell. Ted?
Yeah, the high points, there's a few that probably deserve honourable mentions. The 3-2 win down at the Riverside was obviously, not winning a league game there for 20 years was a nice kind of a monkey to get off our backs. Obviously, the Tommy Watson goal was one of the ultimate highlights of being a Sunderland fan. However, the one that topped it, and is one of my greatest moments as a Sunderland fan, was the Dan Ballard header against Coventry City. Sorry, I've just noticed that. What a comment from Davey. Low point. The low point for me was actually the 3-0 defeat to Coventry. And I thought at that stage we'd absolutely blown it for the season. We got trounced there. And obviously getting drawn against them in the playoffs was a little bit nervy, shall we say. It almost takes on the feel of a derby against them. Hopefully we never have to play them for a long time now. That's us done with it. And let's hope they all get relegated and kicked out the league, because that's what Coventry deserve. Anyway, right.
Yeah, the high points are losing Sunderland from the league. They always seem to push that it was a derby when it was never a derby. They kept stealing our corner flags, which was disgusting as well. So, the team of mugs, that we deserve our corner flag back. What else was some of the high points? The high points of England national Michael Carrick, just coming and saying hello to the club and then leaving. That was a good visit. What else are the highs? We beat
Sonny Dieng. He liked the post about Carrick being sacked.
Yeah, well, that's another high as well. Is that our goalkeeper obviously hates the club and hates the people that were managing it. I honestly can't not think of highs. But when we talk about lows, all of it. From day one till day dot, pretty much all of it. The signings from Iheanacho, the rabble. Look, the highs are Hayden Hackney. I must say, Hayden Hackney had a stellar performance against, for us this season. He did nothing but sell himself even more. He's now playing for the England under-21s. He's got an absolute massive future for himself. Some of the highs, obviously, we're getting in.
Club like Sunderland as well.
I think also, some of the signings we got out of the door as well. Izzy Jones for 5.5 mil to Luton Town as well was an excellent coup of business. Selling Latte Lath for 22. We've got some money in the bank already now from the Morgan Rogers deal, which he looks to be an England starter and regular now as well. So look, there's some of the sales that we've done and money and business side of things I think have been fantastic. I honestly think getting rid of Area was a massive thing for Middlesbrough as well. Those kits were absolutely atrocious. You could never order it in your size. You had to order it 2 sizes larger. So look, I think that it wasn't a season that was all bad, but when you look around, it wasn't one of the better ones. And I will be happily looking forward to day one of next season, looking for a little bit more optimism.
Well, there we go. That is the final Freezer Crowd for season 24-25. We will be back for next season, and looking forward to it.
I won't be. I'll be on a championship podcast.
You will be back, right? You will be back.
You haven't got a choice, mate.
Yeah, exactly. But from me, Steve Ray, from Wright and Ted, have a great summer, and we will see you in August. Take care, lads.
See you, boys.
Bye.
Three's a Crowd podcast will return. That's not a threat, it's a promise.